There is a quiet moment just before dawn when the world seems to hold its breath. The city lights flicker against the last shadows of night, and for a heartbeat, everything is still. In that hush, you can almost hear the pulse of possibility, the gentle whisper that today you could become something more. Not because someone handed you a title or because the world finally recognized your worth, but because you decided in the privacy of your own heart to lead. Leadership is not a crown placed upon your head. It is not a corner office, a nameplate, or a line on your resume. It is not the echo of applause or the weight of authority. True leadership is invisible at first. It is the way you carry yourself when no one is watching. It is the courage to listen when others only want to speak. It is the strength to be kind when the world is hard. It is the art of influence without force, of guiding without demanding, of inspiring without ever needing to command. You do not need permission to lead. You do not need a title, a badge, or a stage. You need only the willingness to see people truly see them, and the humility to serve something greater than yourself. This is the secret that Lincoln carried in his pocket, the quiet power that Eleanor Roosevelt wore like a second skin, the gentle force that made Mandela unforgettable. It is the same force that lives in you, waiting for the moment you choose to awaken it. But before you can lead others, you must first lead yourself. This is the hardest journey of all, the journey inward. It begins with a question that echoes through the ages. Who am I when the world is silent? Who am I when there is no one to impress, no one to please, no one to fear? The answer is not found in the mirror or in the opinions of others, but in the quiet honesty of self-awareness. Self-awareness is the foundation of all influence. It is the courage to look at yourself without flinching, to see your strengths without arrogance and your weaknesses without shame. It is the willingness to ask, what is it like to be on the other side of me? And to listen, truly listen to the answer. It is the humility to admit when you are wrong, and the confidence to stand firm when you are right. Think of the leaders who have shaped history, not with force but with presence. Lincoln, who carried the weight of a fractured nation on his shoulders, was not born with unshakable confidence. He was haunted by doubt, plagued by melancholy, and yet he led with a rare self-awareness, a willingness to question himself, to seek counsel, to admit uncertainty. It was this humility that made him strong, this vulnerability that made him trustworthy. You too can cultivate this quiet power. Begin by noticing your thoughts, your feelings, your reactions. When you are praised, do you become inflated? When you are criticized, do you shrink? When you are ignored, do you become resentful? These are not flaws to be hidden, but signals to be understood. They are the raw material of growth, the starting point of transformation. Self-awareness is not self-obsession. It is not the endless turning of your gaze inward, but the gentle discipline of honesty. It is the willingness to see yourself as you are, so that you can become who you are meant to be. It is the foundation upon which all true leadership is built. But self-awareness alone is not enough. To lead without force, you must master the art of empathy, the ability to step outside yourself and enter the world of another. Empathy is not weakness. It is not the surrender of your own needs or the erasure of your own voice. It is the recognition that every person you meet is fighting a battle you cannot see, carrying burdens you cannot know, dreaming dreams you cannot imagine. To listen, truly listen, is to give a gift more precious than gold. It is to say, I see you, I hear you, you matter. In a world that is loud with self-promotion, the quiet power of listening is revolutionary. It is the secret language of influence, the currency of connection. Think of the last time someone listened to you, really listen, without interrupting, without judging, without waiting for their turn to speak. How did it feel? Did you not stand a little taller, breathe a little deeper, feel a little more alive? This is the power you hold every time you choose to listen. Dale Carnegie understood this better than anyone. He taught that the deepest hunger of the human heart is to be understood, to be valued, to be seen. When you listen with empathy, you satisfy that hunger. You become unforgettable, not because you are the loudest voice in the room, but because you are the one who made others feel heard. Empathy is not a technique. It is not a strategy to win friends or influence people. It is a way of being, a way of seeing, a way of living. It is the willingness to put aside your own agenda, your own opinions, your own need to be right, and to enter the world of another with curiosity and compassion. This is not always easy. There will be times when you are misunderstood, when your kindness is mistaken for weakness, when your willingness to listen is met with indifference or even hostility. But do not let this harden your heart. Do not let the world teach you to be cynical. The greatest leaders are those who remain open, even when it hurts, who choose empathy over ego, connection over control. Confidence, too, is born of humility. It is not the bluster of arrogance or the mask of bravado, but the quiet assurance that you are enough, just as you are. It is the willingness to admit what you do not know, to ask for help, to learn from anyone, anywhere, at any time. It is the strength to stand alone if necessary, and the wisdom to walk together when possible. Humility is not self-deprecation. It is not the denial of your gifts or the shrinking of your dreams. It is the recognition that you are a part of something larger than yourself, that your success is intertwined with the success of others. It is the willingness to lift others up, to celebrate their victories, to learn from their strengths. The leaders who change the world are not those who seek the spotlight, but those who shine it on others. They are the ones who ask, "How can I help?" rather than "What's in it for me?" They are the ones who build bridges, not walls, who create opportunities, not obstacles, who inspire trust, not fear. To influence without controlling is to understand that people are not problems to be solved, but mysteries to be appreciated. It is to recognize that every person you meet is the hero of their own story, the center of their own universe. It is to approach each interaction with curiosity, with respect, with the willingness to be changed by what you learn. You do not need to be the smartest person in the room. You do not need to have all the answers. You need only the courage to ask questions, the humility to listen, and the confidence to act with integrity. This is the essence of influence, not the power to control others, but the ability to inspire them to become their best selves. There will be moments when you are criticized, when your motives are questioned, when your efforts are misunderstood. In these moments, remember that criticism is not a verdict, but a mirror. It reflects not only the opinions of others, but the reality of your own growth. Do not fear criticism. Welcome it as a teacher, a guide, a catalyst for change. Handle conflict with grace. Do not meet anger with anger or contempt with contempt. Meet it with curiosity, with patience, with the willingness to understand. Remember that every conflict is an opportunity to build trust, to deepen connection, to grow in wisdom. You will not always succeed. You will make mistakes. You will fall short. You will disappoint yourself and others. But do not let this stop you. The greatest leaders are not those who never fail, but those who rise again and again, with humility and hope. To become unforgettable, you must become genuinely interested in others. Not as a means to an end, but as an end in itself. Ask questions, listen deeply, remember names, notice details. Make people feel seen, valued, important. This is not manipulation. It is the highest form of respect. Leadership is not about being in charge. It is about taking care of those in your charge. It is about seeing the potential in others and helping them to see it in themselves. It is about creating a space where people feel safe to be themselves, to take risks, to grow. You do not need a title to do this. You do not need permission. You need only the willingness to care, the courage to act, the humility to learn. And so as the sun rises and the world awakens, remember this: you are a leader, not because of what you have, but because of who you are. You are a leader, not because of the power you hold, but because of the love you give. You are a leader, not because of the title you wear, but because of the difference you make. Lead without force. Lead with your heart. Lead with your humanity. The world is waiting. Let me begin by sharing with you the knowledge of the art of empathy. Listening as leadership and the power of genuine connection. There is a rare kind of leader whose presence feels like a gentle hand on your shoulder, a steadying force in a world that so often rushes past. This leader does not need to raise their voice or command attention. Instead, they draw people in with the quiet gravity of their empathy. They listen not just to words, but to the silences in between, to the tremor in a voice, to the story behind the story. In their company, you feel not just heard, but understood. And in that understanding, something remarkable happens. You begin to trust, to open, to grow. Empathy is the bridge between self and other. It is the invisible thread that binds us together, even when our experiences are worlds apart. To lead without force, you must first master this art. The art of stepping outside your own perspective and entering the world of another. It is not enough to know your own mind. You must be willing to inhabit the minds of those around you, to see through their eyes, to feel with their hearts. Consider the story of Nelson Mandela, a man who spent 27 years behind prison walls, yet emerged not hardened by bitterness but softened by understanding. He once said, "If you talk to a man in a language he understands, that goes to his head. If you talk to him in his language, that goes to his heart." Mandela's genius was not in his ability to command, but in his willingness to connect. He listened to his jailers, to his adversaries, to those who had wronged him. He sought to understand their fears, their hopes, their humanity. In doing so, he transformed enemies into allies, suspicion into trust, division into unity. This is the power of empathy. It is not passive. It is not simply nodding along or offering polite agreement. It is an active, courageous act, a willingness to be changed by what you hear. When you listen with empathy, you invite others to bring their whole selves to the table. You create a space where vulnerability is not a weakness but a strength, where differences are not threats but opportunities for growth. In our modern world where distractions are endless and attention is fleeting, the gift of true listening is more precious than ever. We are surrounded by noise, opinions shouted across digital landscapes, judgments passed in an instant, conversations reduced to sound bites. In this environment, to listen deeply is to rebel against the superficial. It is to say, you matter. Your story matters. I am here fully present with you. Think of the last time you felt truly listened to. Perhaps it was a mentor who saw potential in you before you saw it in yourself. Perhaps it was a friend who sat with you in silence when words were too heavy to carry. Perhaps it was a stranger who offered a kind word at just the right moment. These are the moments that linger, that shape us, that remind us of our shared humanity. To cultivate empathy, begin by setting aside your assumptions. Approach each conversation as if you have something to learn, not something to prove. Ask questions, not to interrogate, but to understand. Listen not for the pause that lets you speak, but for the meaning behind the words. Notice body language, tone, the emotions that ripple beneath the surface. Be willing to sit with discomfort, to hold space for pain, to celebrate joy that is not your own. Empathy does not mean losing yourself in the needs of others. It means expanding your sense of self to include them. It means recognizing that your well-being is tied to theirs, that your success is incomplete unless it lifts others as well. It is the foundation of trust, the soil in which influence grows. Dale Carnegie wrote, "You can make more friends in 2 months by becoming interested in other people than you can in 2 years by trying to get other people interested in you." This is not a trick or a tactic. It is a truth as old as time. People are drawn to those who make them feel seen, valued, and understood. In every interaction, you have a choice. You can seek to impress, or you can seek to connect. You can strive to be interesting, or you can strive to be interested. The first path may win you attention, but the second will win you hearts. Empathy is not reserved for grand gestures or dramatic moments. It is found in the small, everyday acts of kindness, a smile, a word of encouragement, a willingness to listen without judgment. It is found in the patience to let someone finish their thought, in the humility to admit when you do not understand, in the courage to ask, "How are you really?" As you move through your day, practice the art of empathy. Notice the people around you, the colleague who seems distracted, the friend who laughs a little too loudly, the stranger who avoids your gaze. Each carries a story, a struggle, a hope. Each is worthy of your attention, your respect, your care. Empathy is the antidote to loneliness, the cure for division, the seed of all true leadership. It is the force that turns strangers into allies, adversaries into partners, followers into leaders. It is the power that allows you to lead without force, to influence without control, to inspire without ever needing to command. When you listen with empathy, you become a mirror in which others can see their best selves. You become a safe harbor in a storm, a source of strength in a world that so often feels uncertain. You become the kind of leader people remember, not for what you achieved, but for how you made them feel. Let this be your legacy, not the titles you collect, but the lives you touch, not the power you wield, but the trust you earn, not the force you exert, but the empathy you embody. And as you continue on this journey, remember, the art of empathy is not a destination, but a practice. It is a choice you make, moment by moment, day by day. It is the quiet revolution that begins in your own heart and ripples outward to change the world. Let me begin by sharing with you the knowledge of confidence through humility, the paradox of quiet strength. There is a kind of strength that does not announce itself. It does not stride into the room demanding attention, nor does it seek validation in the eyes of others. This strength is quiet, unassuming, and yet unbreakable. It is the strength of humility, a paradox that confounds the world's expectations, yet forms the bedrock of true confidence. We are taught, often from a young age, that confidence is loud, that it is the voice that dominates, the hand that always rises, the certainty that never wavers. But the world's greatest leaders have shown us another way. They have shown us that humility is not the absence of confidence, but its highest form. It is the recognition that you are enough, not because you know everything, but because you are willing to learn anything. Consider Abraham Lincoln, a man who led a nation through its darkest hour. He was not the most polished speaker, nor the most charismatic presence. He was, by his own admission, a man of many doubts and deep sorrows. Yet it was precisely this humility, this willingness to question himself, to seek counsel, to admit mistakes that made him so deeply trusted. Lincoln's confidence was not rooted in arrogance, but in a profound sense of responsibility. He knew that leadership was not about being right, but about doing right. Humility is not self-effacement. It is not shrinking from the world or denying your gifts. It is the courage to stand tall, knowing that your worth is not diminished by the greatness of others. It is the wisdom to celebrate their strengths, to learn from their successes, to lift them up without fear that you will be overshadowed. There is a quiet confidence in the person who can say, "I don't know, but I am willing to find out." There is a rare power in the leader who can admit, "I was wrong and I am sorry." These are not signs of weakness, but of extraordinary strength. They are the marks of someone who is secure enough to be vulnerable, who understands that growth is born of imperfection. In your own life, you will be faced with moments that test your confidence. You will be tempted to pretend, to posture, to hide your uncertainty behind a mask of certainty. But remember, the people you admire most are not those who never falter, but those who rise after falling, who learn after failing, who grow after stumbling. Humility invites trust. When you are humble, people feel safe to be themselves around you. They know that you will not judge them for their mistakes, nor envy them for their successes. They know that you are not competing with them, but collaborating for something greater. This is the soil in which loyalty grows, the foundation upon which teams are built. Confidence through humility is not a destination but a practice. It is the daily choice to show up as you are, to speak honestly, to listen deeply, to learn relentlessly. It is the willingness to ask for help, to seek feedback, to admit when you do not have all the answers. It is the discipline to keep your ego in check, to remember that every person you meet knows something you do not. Eleanor Roosevelt once said, "No one can make you feel inferior without your consent." She understood that true confidence is an inside job. It is not given by others, nor taken away by their opinions. It is the quiet assurance that you are worthy, not because you are perfect, but because you are willing to grow. In a world that often confuses humility with weakness, dare to be different. Dare to lead with a quiet strength that does not need to shout. Dare to be the person who lifts others up, who celebrates their victories, who learns from their wisdom. Dare to be humble enough to serve, and confident enough to lead. As you walk this path, you will find that people are drawn to you, not because you demand their attention, but because you earn their respect. They will trust you, not because you have all the answers, but because you are willing to seek them together. They will follow you, not because you hold power over them, but because you empower them to become their best selves. This is the paradox of quiet strength. The more you give away, the more you have. The more you lift others, the higher you rise. The more you listen, the more you are heard. The more you serve, the more you lead. Let this be your confidence, not the fleeting applause of the crowd, but the enduring trust of those you serve. Not the illusion of perfection, but the reality of growth. Not the force of authority, but the power of humility. And as you continue on this journey, remember, the world does not need more loud voices. It needs more quiet strength. It needs more leaders who are humble enough to listen, brave enough to learn, and confident enough to serve. Let me begin by sharing with you the knowledge of influence through understanding, the subtle art of inspiring change. There is a kind of influence that does not announce itself with grand gestures or sweeping declarations. It moves quietly, like water shaping stone, persistent and patient. This influence is born not from the desire to control, but from the deep commitment to understand. It is the art of seeing the world through another's eyes, of meeting people where they are, and gently guiding them toward what they could become. To influence without force is to recognize that every person you meet is a universe unto themselves, full of hopes, fears, memories, and dreams. It is to understand that change cannot be imposed from the outside. It must be invited from within. The most powerful leaders are those who do not seek to bend others to their will, but who awaken in others the desire to grow, to strive, to become. Think of the teacher who saw potential in you when you could not see it in yourself. The mentor who asked the right question at the right time, opening a door you did not know existed. The friend who believed in you, not because you had proven yourself, but because they saw who you could be. These are the people who change us, not by force, but by understanding. Dale Carnegie wrote, "A person's name is to that person the sweetest sound in any language." This is not just a lesson in memory, but a lesson in respect. When you remember someone's name, when you recall the details of their life, you are saying you matter. You are seen. This simple act of attention is the foundation of influence. It is the beginning of trust. To truly understand another person, you must be willing to set aside your own agenda. You must listen not just for agreement, but for meaning. You must ask questions not to steer the conversation, but to explore it. You must be willing to be surprised, to be challenged, to be changed. Influence is not about winning arguments or proving points. It is about creating a space where people feel safe to think, to question, to grow. It is about helping others to see possibilities they had not considered, to imagine futures they had not dared to dream. It is about planting seeds of hope, of courage, of vision. Consider the story of Mahatma Gandhi, a man who led a nation to freedom without ever raising a weapon. His influence was not rooted in power, but in understanding. He listened to the fears of his people, to the hopes of his adversaries, to the wisdom of his own heart. He understood that true change begins not with force, but with empathy. He inspired millions, not by commanding them, but by inviting them to join him in a cause greater than themselves. You too can cultivate this kind of influence. Begin by seeking to understand before you seek to be understood. Ask yourself, what is it like to be this person, in this moment, facing these challenges? Listen for the story behind the words, for the emotion behind the story. Be willing to sit with discomfort, to hold space for uncertainty, to honor the complexity of the human experience. When you approach others with understanding, you create a ripple effect. People who feel understood are more likely to trust, to open, to collaborate. They are more willing to consider new ideas, to take risks, to grow. Your influence expands not by force, but by invitation. This is not always easy. There will be times when you are misunderstood, when your efforts are met with resistance, when your patience is tested. In these moments, remember that understanding is a practice, not a destination. It is a choice you make, again and again, to see the best in others, to believe in their potential, to meet them with compassion. Influence through understanding is not about manipulation. It is not about getting your way or achieving your goals at the expense of others. It is about creating a partnership, a shared vision, a sense of belonging. It is about helping others to become the best version of themselves, even if it means letting go of your own expectations. In every conversation, in every relationship, you have the opportunity to inspire change. Not by telling people what to do, but by helping them to see what is possible. Not by pushing them forward, but by walking beside them. The leaders who leave the deepest mark are those who understand this truth. People do not care how much you know until they know how much you care. Your influence is not measured by the number of followers you have, but by the depth of the connections you create. It is not about being the loudest voice in the room, but about being the one who listens, who understands, who believes. Let this be your legacy. To influence not by force but by understanding. To inspire not by command but by compassion. To lead not by standing above but by walking alongside. And as you continue on this journey, remember, the most powerful influence is the one that awakens greatness in others. The most lasting change is the one that begins with understanding. The most extraordinary leaders are those who see the extraordinary in everyone they meet. Let me begin by sharing with you the knowledge of grace under fire, handling criticism and conflict with dignity. There will come a time, perhaps many times, when your intentions are questioned, your actions misunderstood, your words twisted by the winds of opinion. Criticism, like a sudden storm, can arrive without warning, shaking your confidence and testing your resolve. Conflict, too, is inevitable on the path of leadership. It is the friction that comes from movement, the heat that arises when strong wills meet. Yet it is in these moments when the world seems most against you that your true character is revealed. To lead without force is not to avoid conflict, nor to shrink from criticism. It is to meet both with a quiet dignity, a grace that does not waver in the face of adversity. It is to remember that every challenge is an invitation to grow, to learn, to deepen your understanding of yourself and others. Imagine Eleanor Roosevelt, a woman who faced relentless scrutiny and biting criticism throughout her life. She was called names, dismissed, and doubted, yet she never allowed the opinions of others to define her worth or dictate her actions. Instead, she listened. She sifted through the noise for the kernels of truth, using criticism as a mirror to reflect on her own growth. She responded not with anger, but with curiosity, not with defensiveness, but with resolve. Her grace under fire became her signature, her strength. When you are criticized, pause before you react. Breathe. Ask yourself, is there truth in these words? Is there something here I can learn? Even the harshest criticism can be a gift. If you are willing to receive it, it can reveal blind spots, challenge assumptions, and push you to become better. But do not let criticism become a chain that binds you to the opinions of others. Take what is useful, and let the rest fall away. Conflict, too, is not the enemy. It is the crucible in which trust is forged, the arena where ideas are tested and refined. To handle conflict with dignity is to approach it not as a battle to be won, but as a conversation to be had. It is to listen, even when you disagree, to seek understanding, even when you feel misunderstood, to remain calm, even when emotions run high. Nelson Mandela, in the face of unimaginable conflict, chose reconciliation over revenge, dialogue over division. He understood that to lead is not to dominate, but to unite. He met his adversaries with respect, seeking common ground even when it seemed impossible. His example reminds us that dignity is not weakness, but the highest form of strength. In your own life, you will encounter people who challenge you, who question your motives, who resist your ideas. Do not see them as obstacles, but as partners in your growth. Approach each conflict with an open mind and a willing heart. Ask questions, listen deeply, seek to understand before you seek to be understood. When emotions flare, remember that anger is often a mask for fear, that defensiveness is a shield for vulnerability. Respond with patience, with empathy, with the willingness to see the humanity in those who oppose you. This does not mean surrendering your values or silencing your voice. It means standing firm in your truth, while remaining open to the truths of others. There is a quiet power in the person who can remain calm in the midst of chaos, who can hold their ground without raising their voice, who can disagree without disrespect. This is the power of grace under fire. It is the ability to turn conflict into connection, criticism into growth, adversity into opportunity. Let your response to criticism and conflict be a reflection of your highest self. Let it be guided by curiosity, by humility, by the unwavering belief that every challenge is a chance to become more. Remember that your dignity is not given by others, nor taken away by their words. It is yours to claim, yours to protect, yours to embody. As you continue on this journey, you will find that the storms of criticism and conflict do not break you, they shape you. They reveal the depth of your character, the strength of your convictions, the resilience of your spirit. They teach you to lead not with force, but with grace. And in the end, it is this grace, this quiet, unshakable dignity, that will set you apart. It will earn you the respect of your peers, the trust of your followers, the admiration of those who once doubted you. It will make you a leader, not just in title, but in truth. Let me begin by sharing with you the knowledge of becoming unforgettable, the power of genuine interest in others. There is a rare and magnetic quality in those who make us feel, even for a moment, that we are the only person in the world. Their attention is undivided, their curiosity sincere, their presence a gentle affirmation that we matter. These are the people we remember long after the conversation ends. Not because of what they said, but because of how they made us feel. They are unforgettable, not by accident, but by intention. And their secret is simple. They are genuinely interested in others. Dale Carnegie understood this truth with crystalline clarity. He wrote, "You can make more friends in 2 months by becoming interested in other people than you can in 2 years by trying to get other people interested in you." This is not a strategy for popularity, but a philosophy for life. It is the recognition that every person you meet is a universe of stories, dreams, and struggles, waiting to be discovered. To become unforgettable, you must first become curious. Not the shallow curiosity that skims the surface, but the deep, abiding interest that seeks to understand. Ask questions that invite stories, not just answers. Listen for the details that reveal character, for the moments that shaped a life. Remember names not as a trick, but as a sign of respect. Notice the small things, a change in tone, a spark in the eyes, a hesitation in the voice. These are the clues that lead you into the heart of another. Think of the people who have left a mark on your life. Perhaps it was a teacher who remembered your favorite book, a colleague who noticed when you were struggling, a friend who asked about your family and listened with genuine care. Their interest was not transactional, it was a gift, freely given. In their presence you felt seen, valued, important. This is the power you hold, every time you choose to be present. In a world that is increasingly distracted, where attention is fragmented and fleeting, your undivided presence is a rare and precious offering. It is a signal that says, "You are worth my time. You are worth my attention. You are worth knowing." Genuine interest cannot be faked. People sense when your questions are perfunctory, when your attention is divided, when your engagement is conditional. To be truly interested is to set aside your own agenda, to quiet the voice that waits to speak, to enter the conversation with an open heart and a willing mind. This does not mean losing yourself in the needs of others, nor does it mean becoming a collector of acquaintances. It means approaching each interaction as an opportunity to learn, to connect, to enrich your understanding of the world. It means recognizing that every person you meet has something to teach you, if only you are willing to listen. There is a story of a young woman who once met Eleanor Roosevelt at a crowded reception. Nervous and unsure, she expected only a brief, polite exchange. But Mrs. Roosevelt asked her about her hometown, her family, her dreams. She listened intently, her eyes never leaving the young woman's face. Years later, the woman recalled, "For those few minutes, I felt as if I was the most important person in the world." That is the legacy of genuine interest. It is not measured in the number of people you meet, but in the depth of the connections you create. To become unforgettable, practice the art of remembering. Remember names, yes, but also stories, preferences, hopes, and fears. Follow up on conversations. Ask about the project they mentioned, the challenge they faced, the joy they celebrated. Let your interest be a thread that weaves through every interaction, creating a tapestry of trust and respect. This is not about being liked, but about being present. It is not about impressing others, but about honoring them. It is not about collecting favors, but about building relationships that endure. In every encounter, you have the power to make someone feel seen. You have the power to lift a spirit, to spark a dream, to ease a burden. You have the power to be the person who listens when no one else will, who remembers when others forget, who cares when it would be easier not to. Let this be your legacy, to be unforgettable, not for your achievements, but for your attention, not for your brilliance, but for your kindness, not for your influence, but for your interest. As you continue on this journey, remember that the most powerful leaders are those who make others feel powerful. The most memorable people are those who make others feel memorable. The most extraordinary lives are built, moment by moment, on the foundation of genuine interest in others. Let me begin by sharing with you the knowledge of leadership through encouragement and example. Lighting the way for others, there is a light that does not blind, but guides. It is the light of encouragement, quietly kindling hope in the hearts of others, illuminating paths they might not have dared to walk alone. The greatest leaders are not those who stand above, issuing commands, but those who walk beside, offering a steady hand and a word of belief. They lead not by force but by example, by living the values they wish to see, by embodying the courage they hope to inspire. Encouragement is a force more powerful than we often realize. It is the gentle nudge that says, "You can do this," when doubt clouds the mind. It is the voice that whispers, "I believe in you," when the world seems indifferent. It is the quiet presence that stands with you in the shadows, reminding you that you are not alone. In the hands of a true leader, encouragement becomes a catalyst for transformation. Think of the people who have shaped your journey, not with grand gestures but with simple acts of faith. The coach who saw your potential before you did, the friend who cheered you on when you faltered, the colleague who celebrated your small victories, who noticed your effort, who reminded you of your worth. Their encouragement was not empty praise, but a recognition of your unique gifts, a belief in your ability to rise. To lead through encouragement is to see the best in others, even when they cannot see it in themselves. It is to speak words that lift, to offer feedback that builds, to celebrate progress rather than perfection. It is to create an environment where mistakes are not failures but stepping stones, where effort is valued as much as achievement, where every person feels safe to try, to stumble, to grow. But encouragement alone is not enough. It must be matched by example. People do not follow what you say. They follow what you do. Your actions are your loudest message, your truest legacy. If you want others to be honest yourself. If you want them to be courageous, show your own courage. If you want them to care, let them see your care in action. Mahatma Gandhi's words echo through time. Be the change you wish to see in the world. This is not a call to perfection, but to authenticity. It is an invitation to live your values, to let your life be a beacon for others. When you lead by example, you give others permission to do the same. You create a ripple effect, a chain reaction of integrity and inspiration. Leadership through encouragement and example is not about being flawless. It is about being real. It is about admitting your mistakes, learning from them, and moving forward with humility. It is about showing up day after day with consistency and care. It is about being the first to apologize, the first to forgive, the first to try again. In every moment, you have the opportunity to light the way for others. Sometimes it is as simple as a kind word, a listening ear, a helping hand. Sometimes it is as profound as standing up for what is right, even when it is hard. Sometimes it is simply refusing to give up on yourself, on others, on the possibility of something better. The leaders who endure are those who encourage others to dream, to dare. They're the ones who see potential where others see problems, who offer hope when others offer doubt, who inspire action by the example of their own lives. Their influence is not measured in titles or accolades, but in the lives they touch, the hearts they lift, the futures they help to shape. Let your leadership be a light. Let your encouragement be a spark. Let your example be a guide. In a world that often feels dark and uncertain, be the one who helps others find their way. As you continue on this journey, remember, you do not need to have all the answers. You do not need to be perfect. You need only to care, to try, to lead with your heart. The rest will follow. Let me begin by sharing with you the knowledge of the quiet revolution, courage, clarity, and the unseen power within you. There comes a moment, often in the stillness between heartbeats, when you realize that the world is not changed by those who shout the loudest, but by those who dare to lead quietly. It is a revolution that begins not in the halls of power, but in the silent chambers of the soul. It is the revolution of one person choosing, again and again, to lead without force, to shape the world not with the clenched fist but with the open hand. You may never be given a title. You may never stand on a stage or see your name etched in stone. But every day, in 1,000 small ways, you are given the chance to lead. In the way you greet a stranger, in the patience you show a child, in the forgiveness you offer a friend, in the courage to speak the truth, even when your voice trembles, in the humility to listen, even when you long to be heard, in the decision to lift someone up, even when you are weary yourself. This is the quiet revolution. It is not marked by banners or parades, but by the steady, unyielding presence of those who choose to live with courage and clarity. It is the revolution of the teacher who believes in every student, the nurse who comforts the fearful, the neighbor who checks in on the lonely. It is the revolution of the parent who apologizes, the leader who admits mistakes, the friend who stays when it would be easier to walk away. Courage in its truest form is not the absence of fear but the willingness to act in spite of it. It is the decision to show up, to stand up, to speak up, even when the outcome is uncertain. It is the quiet resolve to do what is right, not because it is easy but because it is necessary. It is the clarity to see what matters most, and the strength to pursue it, day after day. Clarity is the gift of self-awareness, the fruit of reflection, the reward of honesty. It is the ability to see yourself as you are, to recognize your gifts and your limits, to accept your flaws and your strengths. It is the wisdom to know what you stand for, and the discipline to live by it. It is the light that guides you through the fog of doubt, the compass that keeps you true when the path is unclear. The unseen power within you is not measured by the number of people you command, but by the depth of the lives you touch. It is the power to inspire trust, to foster hope, to ignite change. It is the power to create a legacy not of domination, but of connection, not of conquest, but of compassion. History remembers the names of those who led great movements, but it is shaped day by day by the countless souls who lead quietly, faithfully, without recognition. It is shaped by the small acts of courage, the daily choices to be kind, the persistent refusal to give in to cynicism or despair. It is shaped by you in ways you may never fully see. You are the quiet revolutionary. You are the one who can change a life with a word, a gesture, a moment of presence. You are the one who can turn conflict into understanding, criticism into growth, strangers into friends. You are the one who can light a candle in the darkness, and in doing so help others find their way. Do not wait for permission. Do not wait for the world to recognize your worth. Do not wait for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, the perfect you. Begin now, with what you have, where you are. Begin with a single act of courage, a single word of encouragement, a single moment of genuine interest. Begin with the decision to lead, not with force but with heart. Let your life be your message. Let your actions speak louder than your words. Let your presence be a source of comfort, your example a source of inspiration, your leadership a source of hope. Let your legacy be measured not in titles or trophies but in the lives you have touched, the hearts you have lifted, the world you have helped to heal. And when doubt creeps in, as it surely will, remember that you are not alone. You walk in the footsteps of those who have gone before you, who have led with humility, with empathy, with quiet strength. You are part of a lineage of leaders who have changed the world, not by force but by love. This is your revolution. This is your moment. This is your power. Lead without force. Lead with courage. Lead with clarity. Lead with the unseen power that lives within you. The world is waiting. And so, as the world turns and another day unfolds, remember this. Leadership is not a destination but a daily choice. It is not a title bestowed but a truth lived, moment by moment, breath by breath. You do not need to wait for the world to notice you or for the perfect opportunity to arrive. The opportunity is here now in the way you choose to see others, to listen, to encourage, to understand. You are already enough. You are already powerful. The quiet revolution you begin within yourself will ripple outward, touching lives in ways you may never fully know. Lead with your heart. Lead with your humanity. Lead even if no one gave you the title. Because the world needs your light, your courage, your example. This is how you lead without force. This is how you become unforgettable. This is how you change the world, one genuine connection, one act of kindness, one moment of courage at a time. The world is waiting for you to begin.